We're often told how important diversity is, but in some cases, is it leading to white people being the victims of racism? And I was thinking this after it's reported today that the boss of Aviva, Amanda Blanc, has said all senior white male appointments must be approved by her. And this isn't an isolated case. Back in 2021, the BBC, of course, advertised a trainee job that was, quotes, only open to black, Asian and ethnically diverse candidates. And just 2 years earlier, it emerged that white men who wanted to become firefighters in the West Midlands had to get a higher pass mark than women and people from ethnic minorities. It was actually a full 10% higher. They had to achieve 70% in the test as opposed to 60%. You couldn't make it up. Well, I'm joined now by G News presenter Albi Amakona in the studio. Albi, we hear all the time about the importance of diversity. We hear all the time about the cardinal sin of racism, and yet it seems that even top brass in some of the biggest companies in Britain are openly cavorting with the idea that we should have less white men. Is this racism?
It is certainly stupid, Martin. I mean, the last example that you gave about the fire service in the West Midlands, I think it was that white men had to get 70%.
That's right.
In this test, and women and ethnic minorities had to get 60%. How patronising, how discriminatory, how racist. I could get 70% in a test, just like you could get 70% in a test. What we should be judging our firemen and women on is how good they are at saving people from fires, not whether or not they are black or whether or not they are women. And what we should be doing are finding the best people for the job.
But is it racism? Let's just be blunt. If you changed even one or two details in the statement, all black people must be approved by me, all women must be approved by me, it'd be an absolute furore. There'd be hysteria. There'd be calls for the resignation of this manager. And yet, the point is, the comments by Miss Blanc were made to MPs in a Treasury Select Committee. So not even attempting to hide it. In fact, almost hurrahing, chirping about it in Parliament. Therefore, I put it to you that this kind of attitude is not just prevalent, it's something that they think it's something to be proud of.
Yes, I think it is racist. I think positive discrimination ultimately is still discrimination at the end of the day. And positive discrimination in this country is meant to be illegal. But there is a bit of grey area with the law because positive discrimination is illegal, but positive action is legal. I think a lot of people will be thinking, well, what's the difference between positive discrimination and positive action? I'm all for schemes to help people from underrepresented backgrounds get into the jobs that they want to be in if they need extra help. But I stop short at quotas. I think quotas are wrong. I think if you're going to help people, give them the skills, fine, fair enough. But if you're saying you can apply but you can't because you're a woman or because you're black or because you're white, that's discriminatory, that's sexist, that's racist.
And yet, we do see an awful lot of bursaries, of special initiatives to help people of colour, to help women into education, into jobs. It's actively courted by most of the major institutions now. We had a previous segment a minute ago about white working class boys in particular, the least likely to attend university. Of all demographics in the UK, they've simply been forgotten politically. And yet, Albi, there's not a single initiative out there to help them because it would be racist to help white people. Are we just completely stuck in this quandary of it's simply safe and acceptable now to hate white people?
No, I don't think it is safe and acceptable to hate white people. I think that's quite strong language. But what I will say is that there is not enough focus on what you might call left-behind communities in the United Kingdom, our coastal communities, our rural communities, our places in the north of the country. I feel that they feel very ignored by the establishment and very ignored by the government. And a lot of those people, they are white people. But actually, I do just want to pick you up on something, because often people say white working-class boys are the most underprivileged boys in the country.
Yeah.
Actually, travellers and also black Caribbeans are a similar picture, whereas black Africans, Asians, it's very different. I think it's quite important that we talk about those groups of people as well.
Well, in actual fact, if you look at university attendance, in any like-for-like demographic, the data is abundantly clear. If you look at the UCAS acceptance figures for 20 straight plus years, the fact of the matter is, white working class boys, the way of measuring that, of course, is free school meals. It's a crude measurement, nevertheless it's one that works. Provably, they are the lowest likely attendees of university.
The people that have the worst outcomes in the country are pretty almost equally black Caribbean children, Roma traveller children,
it's not true.
and white working class children. It is. I mean, well, look, maybe we've been looking at different figures, Martin, but all I'm saying is it's important that we don't just say it's only white working class children who are suffering.
And so I would put it onto you then, which is true. Certainly, I know this for a fact. There aren't the initiatives out there to help the white kids into university in the way that there are the initiatives to help those other demographics in. And isn't that the point? It's a forgotten demographic. It's a demographic that is acceptable to kick when they're down. And now we're at a point, and I hear it a great many times from people I know, you get to a certain age, you're a white, middle-aged, male, stale, pale, there's no route forward. And this kind of talk by Miss Blanca Aviva proves that effectively this demographic, they're outmoded, they're out of fashion, they're unwanted.
What I think is more important than focusing on racial cohorts is actually focusing on things like whether or not people come from single-parent backgrounds, for example, what postcodes people grow up in. These are actually much more important markers of outcomes in life than someone's skin colour, so then we don't get into these petty arguments.
But she's not saying I must approve your parenthood or your postcode. She's saying I must approve the fact you're a white man.
And I think that is wrong. Let me be very clear about that. But what I'm saying is what we should be focusing on rather than the colour of people's skin is whether or not people have grown up in a single-parent household and the postcodes that they have grown up in, because those are bigger determinants of life outcomes than almost any other factor, and we don't talk about them enough. OK, Albie, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Spirited debate, Albie and Anacona, always a pleasure. Now, an Aviva spokesperson told us this: we will always hire the best person for the job and ensure that Aviva has a diverse workforce that reflects the customers we serve. Last year, 57% of our senior appointments were male.